is the investment in R&D, which is driven in part also by the growth in GDP, because it's connected. There's always a certain fixed percentage, at least in industrial nations, that we spend on R&D and innovation. In the United States, it's around 2.8%. In Europe, it is on average about 1.7, 1.8%. Many other countries in Europe invest actually a lot more than that. Countries like Switzerland, Sweden, and so on, they invest more than 3% of their GDP in R&D. But on average, it's a little bit lower. Now, as you can see, China has actually come from a 0.7% ratio, and it's been pushing this up to 1.2, 1.3, 1.4% in the course of about 10 years. And their ambition is to go into the 2.5, 2.6% by the year 2020. So they're going to be investing as much as the rest of the world, as the industrial world in terms of R&D of their GDP. And that's on top of a 4x growth of the GDP. So actually, the R&D expenditures have been growing by a factor of 8 over the last 20 years. Now, this also has impact immediately on patent production, one of the typical and most frequently means to measure innovation in any country. And as you can see here, it's one of these hockey stick functions again. With more than 90%, 99% of the utility patents and more than 85% of the invention patents now being filed for and applied by Chinese companies. It's not the foreign companies anymore that used to be so dominant in invention patenting in China. It's now the Chinese companies. And already now China is the #1 country in the world filing patents in terms of numbers. And just the province of Guangdong actually alone files more patents than the United States and Japan taken together. That's just the province of Guangdong, which arguably, houses cities or host cities like Guangzhou and Shenzhen and so on. So it's a large province, but still, it's quite impressive with respect to patent production here as well. Foreigners obviously have picked up on these trends and terms as well, and have started to invest in China with respect to R&D and innovation. And these are the new R&D facilities that have come to harness some of this innovation and creativity potential in China. And again, it's a hockey stick function. Estimates by the government, the Chinese government, are that there's more than 1,000 foreign R&D facilities now in China. Imagine 1,000 R&D facilities in a country that just 10, 15 years ago basically was mentioned in the same vein as parts of Central Africa or South America, places that aren't necessarily known for innovation or R&D at all. I don't know how many R&D facilities are in the United States, but I'm sure that China, just with those 1,000 foreign R&D facilities and the tens of thousands of R&D facilities that are run by Chinese companies, must be up there in the top 3 by now as well. So China actually is very serious about this. China is very serious about moving up its own innovation capability, its own invention potential from what used to be a laggard, really, a latecomer to innovation due to recent history, be this the Cultural Revolution, be this civil wars in China, be this an attention more to the masses rather than quality. China is very serious about moving up on this innovation curve, and they have been formulating very ambitious plans here to move their GDP, R&D GDP intensity up, as I mentioned before, to 2.5%, to move up in terms of science and technology contributions to economic growth, to move up in terms of reducing the dependence on foreign technology, to move up in terms of going into the top 5, maybe even top 3 at some point, invention patents, publications, paper productions, and all indications are so far that they are at least on track, if not already ahead of the track, with respect to making this happen by the year 2020. And it's a strong focus, not just to copy patents and copy technology, as it used to be, but more and more this is really around invention of own technologies and indigenous innovation. So innovation is happening in China, and China is really revving up its innovation engine. And what used to be with respect to some of these old technologies and old products that have come out of China, and I'm sure you have heard of the compass being invented in China, or that paper was initially invented in China, or that, for instance, some of the seafarers also came from China. Gunpowder came out of China. All of that is It's moving up the value chain as well. And obviously, Chinese companies have started to copy first, and this is very natural to do. The Japanese have copied, the Koreans have copied, and let's be frank, also the Americans have copied. The Americans have copied widely in the 19th century from French and German technologies. It's natural to move to these transitions, and at some point, and it seems to be happening now in China, at some point we're going to see real innovation, and China is scratching on these real innovations right now. Underlying this trend is China's education. So China is really investing heavily in building up an education infrastructure, leading to better science and leading to greater potential for innovation as well. And as you can see from the original state, how people were educated in China, literally just using chalkboards, and coal, hardly being able to read and write here. They're moving into the latest facilities. They have more than 2,500 universities in China, and they're expanding this infrastructure, hiring more professors, hiring the entire staff around it, using international textbooks, such as much as we do. And they're basically throwing this out there in front of millions of students who are eager to learn. And I give you a little bit more of an example about these students here in a second.